Imagine being in front of a massive room of workers, and you've been tasked with the job of turning around an enormous and historic company that hadn't seen its peaceful days in many years. And then, imagine that, just because the company's so large, you have to do this multiple times across the country. How would you approach these people?
I think just being genuine and not really any artifice, just laying out what we were really trying to do. I think just connected with a nucleus in that group, and the culture began to change almost immediately. They still didn't know how to go do this thing, but they were excited about going and doing it. And we had a why-ectomy. We changed out the why. We changed out the mission. And the mission seemed all of a sudden really important, really relevant, doable, although they didn't know exactly how we would get there.
That's Joe Walsh, the chairman and CEO of Thryv, a company that used to focus on phone books, but now, via its digital platform, supercharges small businesses to offer high-performance service for their customers. It was Joe's responsibility, along with the team he brought with him to the company, to envision and deliver this transformation. How was it possible to pivot such a large organization from a technological laggard to the vanguard of digital transformation? I'm Jeremy Bergeron, head of strategy at Mission.org. Welcome to Business X Factors. Each week, we'll take a look at the secret sauce that takes companies to the highest levels of success and then unpack how they got there. We'll explore how these organizations are even run, and then what's so special about the people, the culture, and the processes that make it all happen. This podcast is produced with love from the team at Mission.org. Mission.org is the #1 podcast network for executives. Get a front row seat to exclusive interviews with executives from some of the biggest brands in the world, as well as emerging unicorns changing business as we know it. Hear the interviews, watch the interviews, learn from their stories, level up your own success. With podcasts about the future of e-commerce and marketing, to the latest in IT and technology, to inspiring stories of SMBs and beyond, Mission.org has a show for every type of executive. Go to mission.org/podcasts. That's mission.org/podcasts. Although Joe is very familiar with small businesses, he didn't grow up in a family of small business owners. But he did learn a lot in his upbringing about the value of a dollar.
I came from a big family. My dad was the mailman. He didn't make a lot of money. My mom worked as a clerk. My parents did an incredible job. We had a great household, nice upbringing. But it was scarcity, always scarcity. I was an athlete. I played football in 6th grade when I realized the sacrifices the family had to make to buy the gear, and I outgrew it by the next year. I waited till I got to high school to play football again because they give you the gear. We just didn't have a lot of money.
This experience with money had a strong influence on Joe's entrepreneurial interests.
So I really wanted to be financially successful. That was really important to me. I realized that making money is the byproduct of helping people. Your rewards in life will match your service, right? So I wanted to figure out how can I be of great service? And so an entrepreneur was born. When I was hustling and riding my bike to work on farms to make money, I was shoveling snow, mowing lawns, anything you can imagine. I worked at a gas station that was walking distance from our house. I did everything I possibly could to earn money as a young guy.
Joe did spend some time in college while he was already launching his own business. Eventually, he pursued an alternative educational strategy of self-directed learning.
And so I sought my education by reading the biographies of great men and women, successful companies, countries, sports teams, anything that had been successful. I discovered audio programs and books on tape, and I was driving constantly because I was out selling. I listened to these things till I wore them out. Ben Franklin, when I read his biography, he said, empty the coins in your purse into your mind, and your mind will fill your purse with coins. So I just did that. I took every spare amount of time and money I had and poured it into education. I went to seminars, conferences. I went and sought out mentors and figured out how to sponge information and learn. And I just had this accelerated process. One of my early business partners said to me, I was very young, he said, "You're getting about 4 or 5 years of experience every calendar year because of the way you're going at this. By the time you're 30 years old, you're going to have more business wisdom than guys that are 40 or 45, just because of the way you're going about it."
While Joe was investing in this self-directed education, a lot of his work was among small businesses.
It was always working with small businesses. My early experiences were calling on the air conditioning contractor and helping him with his Yellow Pages programs and working with the seamstress or the tailor or the landscaper. There's a great Rudyard Kipling quote that I like very much: "To walk with kings nor lose the common touch." I got that in my bones because I was a blue-collar kid, but I was in these richly paneled law offices putting together deals for my company and financings and all this other stuff. But then hours later, I'm talking to a guy with a big stain on his shirt about his landscaping business and how to get more customers and all that stuff. That was my day every day.
The Rudyard Kipling quote that Joe mentions is from Kipling's poem, If. The last stanza is, quote, "If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son," unquote. The ability to understand and interact with a wide range of people is definitely an asset in business. Here are a few highlights in Joe's business career. Early on, he co-founded IYP Publishing. Down the line, he became CEO of Yellow Book and later developed his own consulting firm. This brings us to how he eventually became the CEO of Thryv. In fact, Joe playfully suggested that he was tricked into becoming CEO of the company.
I have a board advisory practice called Walsh Partners, and that led me into the ed tech space with Cambium Learning. I was chairman of that company. And I, in fact, did strategy work for companies, helping them figure out how to solve these kinds of problems. So when I say I was tricked, I was invited multiple times to become the CEO of this company. And I said, not only no, but hell no, that's not something I would want to do. They said, "Well, we see here that you do strategy work. Would you help us think through a strategy?" Who better to do that than the CEO of Yellow Book, who kind of ran rings around the phone company Yellow Pages at the time? Surely you could come up with a good idea. So we were hired to develop a strategy for the company.
After the break, learn how Joe ended up as the CEO of Thryv. Want to improve your business development efforts? Ensure your ideal client prospects listen to your customer stories, all while meeting some of the most interesting people in your industry. Sponsor a Mission podcast. To learn more about how your company can be positioned as the thought leader in your category, visit us at mission.org/about. Before the break, Joe began to tell us how he was tricked into becoming the CEO of Thryv. Initially, his firm Walsh Partners was brought on in a consulting role to develop a new way forward for the business. At that point, the company had been around for well over a century with an antiquated business model that had left them struggling for years. Here's how Joe was lured into the role.
I spent a number of months with my team really digging in, trying to figure out, what would I do if I was in this situation? We ended up coming back to the board with the strategy that said you should move beyond leads, beyond just linking buyers and sellers together, and really help local businesses into the cloud, help democratize these tools to simplify their lives. They're going to end up eventually there anyway, but you could be the ones to lead them. You could be at the front edge of this curve, and you have time because people haven't even thought of this yet. Like, this is something that's going to happen in the next decade. We're back in 2014 here. It's going to be 5, 6, 7 years away, and this is going to become a big thing.
Joe's transition to become the CEO was in part due to his own success. As a consultant, he had to go deep into the company's business model to help develop a fresh approach. In doing so, Joe was able to see the value of the company as well as the potential to help distribute a new sort of technology.
So we did such a good job selling them on the vision and the strategy. They said, this is genius. We really think this is so smart. Do you really think we can do it? And I said, yes. What else are you going to do over the next 5 or 6 years? Just sit here and run this thing into the ground? And they said, we like the strategy so much, we would love to get your whole team to come here and execute it. I said no like a sane person would to taking on a challenge like this. I said no repeatedly and over many months. But when it was all said and done, after spending months solving the problem, I went out in the field with the sales reps. I went into the operations. I spent time working side by side with people in call centers with the headset on, talking to small businesses. I went out and met the technology companies that had the kind of technology that was beginning to develop that had no distribution, and they were begging me to figure out how to solve their problem.
During the consulting experience, Joe became quite interested in solving the company's challenge.
I just fell in love with the problem, honestly. I fell in love with the situation. And this was a big company. It was a big, juicy, hard to solve problem. And it was a company with 5,000 employees, publicly held, billions of dollars of revenue. So it wasn't going to go out of business tomorrow. I had a little runway to take it on. And they kind of made us an offer we couldn't refuse.
The other element that tugged on Joe's heartstrings were the people.
I started liking the people very much in the company. And I felt like they didn't deserve to just run a funeral and just go out of business over time.
To better understand Joe's initial hesitancy to become CEO requires a bit more information about the company's legacy and some of their other current offerings outside of the Thryv platform.
Our company is more than 130 years old. The genesis of it was when the telephone companies initially were beginning to be born and starting to wire up America. The Public Utility Commission began to be formed also. And one of the requirements of the people who granted telephone licenses to be the telephone company was that they had to publish a subscriber list. So a list of everybody, so that what good are phones if you don't have a list of how to call people? So it was in their self-interest as well. And pretty quickly along the way, they figured out how to monetize that list by selling ads. And the Yellow Pages was born, where you would put out an alphabetical list of all the phones, but you would also put out a classified list by type of business and sell advertising there. And so that dates back to 1886. Our company, its various pieces, were a part of those phone companies.
When Joe became CEO, he brought some of those Yellow Pages companies back into the fold.
What I've done with my team over the last number of years is rolled all that back together. We basically have bought all those Yellow Pages companies that the telephone companies developed or spawned off. So we publish all the Yellow Pages, all the online Yellow Pages, and we do a lot of digital marketing services. We have about $1 billion of marketing services in our company. But that's not a great growth business. Obviously, the printed Yellow Pages is in a structural technological decline. The online Yellow Pages faces pretty stiff competition from like a Google search or other general searches. So those businesses are challenged. We do a lot of other digital marketing services, but those are somewhat commoditized. There's lots of people that do them.
Once on board with the company, Joe was searching for new territory to monetize. He understood that the Yellow Pages, in print or online, and even the other digital marketing services that Joe mentioned, would not be major growth areas moving forward.
When I joined the company, I was looking for a greenfield, an area that would be a high growth segment that we could pivot the company and focus on.
Joe realized he had to find a new market with problems that he and his team could solve. Then, Joe had to figure out a way to pivot the entire company in that direction.
I basically implored the employees of the company, we could work 7 days a week and we wouldn't be a growing company if we're addressing what is essentially a declining, mature category. We have to pivot as a business. So what problem are we going to go solve? The iPhone had been invented at that point. And our behavior as consumers was really meaningfully changing. And small businesses, independent businesses, were falling behind. Because in that pitched battle between big companies and small ones, it's been going on for centuries, all of a sudden, the big company had the advantage. It used to be that the small guy knew you better. He was your neighbor. He knew what you bought. You had a relationship. Now, all of a sudden, global e-commerce and national and regional private equity-backed roll-ups were using really cool technology on your phones to deliver a better experience where they knew what you bought last time and served up similar products to you.
Joe had a vision to use modern technology as a means to help small businesses begin to catch back up to their much larger competitors.
Well, the independent business owners don't have any of those tools. We said what we could do is really democratize this technology. We could help small businesses modernize and move from this analog technology of the past to an automated solution. And so today, lots of small business people manage their business right out of their pocket. They are able to thumb one button on their phone, up pops their Thryv app, and they're able to take a look at the appointments that are coming up, click on the client card, see what that customer bought last time, what they paid, the name of all the people involved, any documents that have been shared on the account. They're able to take a quick picture of the job they did for them, post it on social media right from the tool. They can manage ratings and reviews there. They can do estimates, invoices, billing, payments, the kind of the 360 life cycle out of their pocket for a few $100 a month. It's an amazing technological revolution. It can save multiple employees in a company. It can save all kinds of the principals' time. It's wasted a lot of times.
His belief that technology can be used to create tools that truly help small businesses compete is paying off for Thryv.
Here we are, 6+ years later, and the software business now is a very big business, 46,000 subscribers, and the growth that's coming out of that piece of the business is really exciting. And it's completely transformed the company's future. In fact, the company at one time was public. We took it private to work on it, and then we brought it public again. And the share price has been kind of a quadruple since we came public.
Joe had a vision for Thryv, and it has led to spectacular results. But how did he help guide the company in this new direction?
I brought initially, the day I started, 9 people with me, who in turn brought their best 8 or 9. So it was about 100 of us against 5,000 day one. And we transformed the culture and the energy and the purpose of the company.
Then the question is, how did Joe and the team he brought with him go from 100 new employees separate from 5,000 established employees to 5,100 teammates, all believing in the vision and working together toward the same purpose?
Look, you had this very mature unionized sales force that was working for the telephone company and later the former telephone company. And so when we went out to meet with this thousands of person sales force, we had to travel around the country and do these big rallies. They showed up at the rallies with their arms folded, a lot of times they would coordinate, we're all going to wear black t-shirts, we're all going to wear red in order to show solidarity for the union against the company. And that was something I just didn't want anything to do with. I didn't have any partisan or political views. I just want to save the company. And so I got up there and I was catching serious attitude before I even got up to talk. And I basically said, listen, whether you're supposed to listen or the union told you you should or whatever, I don't care. Let me just tell you why I'm here and what we're trying to do. And I just started talking and presenting, and I got my team to do the same. And we just poured out the torrent of our inspiration, the whole vision for what we thought was really possible and what we thought it could do for the company, for our customers, and for their careers. And it resonated with a lot of them. And I think just being genuine and not really any artifice, just laying out what we were really trying to do, I think just connected with a nucleus in that group, and the culture began to change almost immediately. They still didn't know how to go do this thing, but they were excited about going and doing that.
Authenticity, along with a good game plan, made a big difference in getting buy-in from the team. And, according to Joe, acceptance came a little easier because the prior approach had not been very fruitful for a while.
We had a why-ectomy. We changed out the why. We changed out the mission. And the mission seemed all of a sudden really important, really relevant, doable, Although they didn't know exactly how we would get there. There were lots of steps along the way that they couldn't see. I think they had a modicum of faith in my senior leadership team that we saw it and we were going to figure it out. One of the ways we won them over, in all honesty, is the existing business that they had, because it was in decline, because it had been doing poorly for a long time, because it had missed its target 15 or 16 years in a row. When you're in that situation, you live in a world of scarcity.
Rather than a scarce environment, Joe and his team offered hope to these employees. But before they could get a new project off the ground, Joe and the company had to sort out and simplify their legacy processes. And this helped the sales team do their jobs more effectively.
The place that we started was not so much about all the whiz-bang new technology, but we said, we're going to fix the old stuff. We're going to make what you're currently selling work. We're going to simplify it. We're going to deliver good value for money. Right here, right now, in the next weeks and months, we're going to make this happen. And we're going to take these complex systems that you're working with, and we're going to swap them out for simpler, lighter, more cloud-based tools. These guys are working on code and order processing stuff that was written in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
It makes sense. Before building an addition, it's essential to make sure the foundation is strong. For this company, that meant simplifying their products and processes.
So we just simplified the products. We simplified a lot of those kind of red tapey things. And all of a sudden, they started getting performance. And I made a pledge to them. We will sell no products that don't deliver extraordinary value and that we can't fulfill accurately and quickly. So we came in with an aggressive red pen and just said, no, it's going to be very simple. We're going to offer kind of these 3 or 4 products. It's going to work this way. They all are going to sit behind this theme and they're going to work. And we repriced everything to make sure the value was the best value for money.
And then Joe and his team were ready to launch their new software MVP and really start to move the company into this new territory.
The big breakthrough moment was when we rolled out the MVP of the software. We basically very quickly hacked together an MVP. It wasn't great, but it was the beginnings of that vision. And we got it, we trained them up on it, we got it in their hands, and we got them out in the market. We described it like Thryv is today. It didn't do that much yet. It was a mobile, adaptive, responsive website that would work really well on any device with some pretty cool widgets and features on it. But we sold the living hell out of it. And we've got to invest now in engineering and technology. We got to stay in front of this interest and this demand that's clearly here.
Fundamentally, Thryv is leveraging its platform with easy-to-use technology to help small businesses focus on what they do best, fulfilling their own services while maintaining good relationships with their customers. To do so, an entire company had to be pivoted. You heard Joe say it before, but it's worth repeating. It was about adjusting the why.
We changed the why. Like you would change out a filter on your air conditioning system. We swapped out the why. We said, the old why isn't working. We're going to bring in this new why. Here's our new why, and here's why the new why. And here's where it'll lead us.
Earlier, Joe mentioned he was looking for what he called a greenfield. If that refers to finding a lucrative territory where money can be made, a valuable greenfield could end up being a variety of markets based upon the values of an individual or even of an entire company. Let's consider how Jim sees earning money in terms of how it applies to Thryv's new venture.
Making money is a byproduct of helping people. We genuinely are trying to actually help those local businesses, not pitch them on helping them, but I mean actually helping. And then as a byproduct of that, we get a little bit of money. And if that gives us an opportunity, because we did such a good job with customer one, to get his friends who he refers, and then it starts to build. And that's what we're riding right now. We have more than 46,000 subscribers to Thryv, over 400,000 total customers in our company. And it's because we do a phenomenal job for them. If a young person asks me, how do I become successful? I will tell them that your rewards in life will match your service.
Let's reflect back for a moment to the Rudyard Kipling phrase that Joe particularly loves. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If we can use our own poetic license here for a moment and springboard off of Kipling's poem, Thryv is treating small businesses as if they are royalty. They provide them with high-value digital tools so their kingdoms can flourish as they effectively serve their customers. In doing so, Thryv has not only survived, but positioned itself as a company to hopefully thrive into the next 100 years. Mission is a network of C-level and executive-focused shows and communities. Our studios work with enterprises to create original content and experiences that reach and influence the hardest-to-reach executives in the world. Mission's network of shows includes thousands of episodes that regularly circulate amongst executives at the Fortune 1000 level and beyond. And we're always looking for more partners to help continue to bring this content to life. If you are a world-class enterprise that needs to reach and influence decision makers in the C-suite, leaders at public institutions, and leaders creating policy, Mission can help. Go to mission.org/about to learn more. You've been listening to Business X Factors, created and produced by our team here at mission.org. Are you enjoying this show? If you are, I know I would be so grateful if you took 2 seconds to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as this helps ensure that more listeners like you find the show, and it also lets me know how I'm doing. If you enjoyed this specific episode and you want to dive deeper into the topics discussed, be sure to check out the resources section of our show notes, where we've included helpful links, articles, and books, including any stat or story referenced in this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Jeremy Bergeron, and I'll catch you next time on Business X Factors.